And joining me now with a deeper dive is Andy Walden. He's head of mortgage and housing market research at ICE. Andy, it's great to have you on the show. As always, joining us from Denver this morning. And spring is here. Believe it or not, we are in the midst of the traditional buying season. What are you seeing when it comes to overall first-time homebuyer activity this season?
Yeah, and the interesting thing early this spring is first-time homebuyers remain active out there in the market. In fact, if you look at agency purchase lending, 58% of agency purchase lending in the first quarter of this year went to first-time homebuyers. 43% of all lending went to first-time homebuyers out there in the market. So they remain comparatively active, especially compared to repeat buyers who are locked into those golden handcuffs of the lower interest rates that they've obtained here over the last couple of years. And so certainly something worth understanding from a lending perspective, where your borrower is coming from. And important to understand from a capital markets and investment perspective as well, because the performance of those first-time homebuyers is now affecting the performance of those securities out there in the market.
So your research does reveal that we're seeing more of Gen Z enter the picture, Andy. I do want to peel that back a bit. How much of the market is Gen Z?
Yeah, and while there's still a relatively small share overall of purchase activity, when you look specifically at those first-time home buyers, 1 in 4 of them is younger than 28, which puts them in that Gen Z category. Now, certainly still priced out of some of those more expensive markets. You can look at the coastal areas of California, you can look at Colorado and along the East Coast. But when you get into Midwestern regions of the country that are relatively more affordable, talking about over a quarter to over a third of first-time home buyers are those younger Gen Z folks that are looking to be a little bit more tech savvy out there in the market in the way that they interact with their lending platforms, servicing platforms, and real estate platforms as well.
Interesting. So how should a first-time home buyer, including someone amid Gen Z, operate in this market, Andy?
Yeah, and I really think it's understanding all of the market dynamics that are at play, right? Get that data at your fingertips. Make sure you're making those informed decisions out there. Understand the supply-demand dynamics. But it's something we've been excited about for an extended period of time to be able to bring those mobile platforms, those technology solutions to those younger home buyers and borrowers out there in today's market.
Mm-hmm. What opportunities do you think more Gen Z buyers present to ICE Mortgage as well as lenders, especially when it comes to technology?
Yeah, it's exactly what we were just talking about, right? And I think we've talked about this in the past, but a few years ago, I set out to create this analog conversion to digital landscape for the real estate and lending world, all the way from real estate platforms through origination technologies, through servicing, and then through the capital markets perspective as well. This is exactly what we had in mind when we set out to do that. These younger borrowers that are more mobile app savvy, more tech savvy. And so I think this is a market where folks that have been making those investments in those technology solutions for this younger generation, they're going to start paying off here over the next few quarters and next few years.
We've got a big policy decision due on Wednesday, Andy. I know you'll be watching it. Of course, we'll hear from the Fed, by and large expected to keep interest rates unchanged at their current level. But we do know that the mortgage market does operate on rates. And so how is ICE Mortgage helping buyers sort through this data? And do you in particular have any sort of expectation heading into that Wednesday Fed decision?
Well, let's start with the latter question there, the expectation heading in. I mean, you hit it on the head, right? Over a 90% chance that the Fed keeps rates exactly where they're at. If you look at our futures pricing, it says some modest improvement in mortgage rates here over the next few months as the Fed begins to ease here over those next few meetings. But when you look at the broader question of, how does ICE help not only home buyers and folks in that space, along with, the B2B businesses out there in the market as well, how do you help them navigate? And it's really putting the right data in the right place at the right time to make informed decisions, whether it's what's going on with interest rates at any given point in time, what is our futures data implying about where mortgage rates are going, what's going on with the supply and demand and price dynamics in the market, and same goes in the capital market space as well, what's going on with mortgage-backed security pricing at any given time as well. So it's really just keeping that data flow moving, providing the right information to the right folks at the right time to make informed buy-sell decisions.
Can we break down some more of the market data, Andy, that you're looking at? I know you referenced earlier that the Midwest does look attractive at these levels when it comes to affordability. What are you seeing across other markets?
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this one in the past, the Sun Belt region of the country, your Floridas, Texas. I think there's been a lot of reporting around that, the fact that the supply has returned, price dynamics have softened up. The what's going on now and what's shifted is Colorado. You've really seen a building of inventory in Denver and Colorado Springs. In fact, they have the largest surplus of inventory of any market across the country, and you're certainly seeing prices shift softer there. And then the what's next here, potentially out west in California. If you look at the latest inventory data, the markets that have seen the largest growth over the last 12 months out there in the market, it's really California, 50 to 60% inventory growth in some of those major markets out there. They're still running deficits, but those deficits are shrinking relatively quickly. And so that could be the next area of the country that we're talking about is California, where we know we have some of the largest affordability challenges. Now you're starting to see inventory return, and that could shift the price dynamics out there.
Anything else our viewers should be aware of, Andy, as we approach these summer months when it comes to the housing market?
Yeah, it's really keep an eye on that real-time data, right? We've seen a lot of movement, not only in interest rates, obviously, over the last month or so in the market, but a lot of supply-demand shifts going on out there in the market as well. So keep a close eye on what's going on in your particular market, understand the shifting trends from a supply, demand, and price perspective, because we are seeing some transitions this spring.
Andy Walden, thank you as always for joining us. He's the head of mortgage and housing market research at ICE.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Appreciate it.
Great to see you.